Well, the chap came to, supernumerary came to Bull Point. Little tiny chap. Oh, you couldn't see over the boundary wall. That's how big he was. And you didn't have the best of cooking facilities there at the time. And some of the meals that lad used to turn out was, you know, out of this world. Some of the pastries and the cakes and stuff like that. And he never said a lot to anybody. He was always out running and things like that. So one day I tackled him. I said, "Why did you learn to cook and bake like that?" "Oh," he said, "I was in the Army Catering Corps." I said, "Yes," he said, "I was in the parachute regiment." "Oh, he's that tiny, you think a bloody parachute would take him?" But he left in the end because he had a lot of domestic problems.
That was in the days when you all cooked for each other.
Yeah, yeah. And
did you go in for puddings and lots of big...
oh yes, yeah. Oh God, that was the you had to put the duff out every day, you know, and the jug of custard and the onion gravy and all that had to be. I mean, I did a curry at one place, which will remain nameless. Did this curry, cold day, and the old man sat down. "What the bloody hell's this?" I said, "Well, it's curry, skipper." "Oh, bloody Indian rubbish in here, you know." So I just got up. I said, "You don't want it?" He said, "No." I said, "Right, fair dues." I just opened the window, plate the lot out the window, straight out. I said, "Cook your own bloody dinners in future," which didn't go down a bundle in those days. He said, "You owe Trinity for that plate." I said, "Hang on that." So I went up to the bedroom, got half a crown. I said, "There you are." Half a crown for a bloody reject plate. That's all they were. Still are, I think.
Mm. You were on the Nab Tower, you said?
Well, the Nab was a funny place. Whatever you dropped, it rolled into one corner. If it rolled, it would roll into one corner. See, she's 19 inches out of perpendicular.
Mm.
And there's a real oven in hot weather, an ice box in the winter. God, it was cold. And you only had a Rayburn or York seal. That's all you had for warmth. And if you got a bit of a swell up from the south or southwest, you could feel it doing that on the bottom.
Sort of skipping a bit.
Yeah, and very simple station to run. You know, you had two lights, red and a white. The old Gardner engines, which simple, dead easy to run they were. The funny thing about the Nab was that on other stations with a foghorn you got twopence an hour. But on the Nab you got threepence. Because you had the bell as well as soon as the foghorn went, the bell clanged, you know. So you got a penny extra for the bell. Bloody great thing that was. Cool. We had a greenhouse on there, right on the top. The week that the dockyard mateys used to come out and do the maintenance on that, because being Admiralty owned, you never touch your own stores, your own grub. They used to feed us. Yeah, the old chef would say, "Come on, come get your meals, boys." You know. So we for that week, the Navy was out, the Admiralty was out there. We lived like lords compared to normal times, you know. The beauty about the Nab was that you carried a damn sight more fresh water than other places. And we didn't rely on Trinity to top us up. The dockyard used to come out and top us up. Something like 15,000 gallons, something astronomical in our estimation, you know. And when I first went there was a landline telephone link ashore. And Nobody ashore knew where this extension went to. But we did, it come out to the nab. So lots of lads used to have a free call, you know. Had a little crane there for bringing the stores up off the landing, you know, out the boat, which was a good thing. If you started sounding, the PK's bedroom was right onto the engine room. And the supernumerary always had the PK's bedroom, you see. And when he came to, when you woke up, your bed had gone up, bump, 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 right down to the door. So if anybody came to wake you up, call you for your watch, they had to push the bloody bed up the bedroom to get you, to wake you up, like, well.
That's sheer vibration, was it?
Yeah, sheer vibration. It was only about 3/8 steel between you and the engine room. We did end up one winter pushing sitting up in the turret, the whole of your watch sitting up there pushing the white light round by hand. The clock had gone, and that was a bit chilly. And all he had was an old apple box or something like that to sit on. And you leaned up against the back on the turret side, that was cold steel, you know, and you had your hand up here pushing the light round. And you take a book with you to try and lose a bit of time, you know. You get an interesting part of the book and, oh hell, get a few more to get going. There was hell on there once. See, a normal lantern, you take the curtains off on the inside, don't you? There were just 2 strips of canvas on the outside that covered the light. And one night they'd lit up, all sitting down to tea, and the pilot boat came up, called them up. Your main light's not on. Yes, it is. Well, you could go out onto the little gangway where you went down to the coal bunker, and you could look up and you could see the red light and the white, you see. And they went out and looked. Somebody hadn't taken the curtains down. And it's a busy place, it was, the nab in those days. I've seen the Queen Mary and the America side by side off there. Tell you a guy who would have a lot of information about the nab is Eric Dove.
Yeah.
Did you ever get over the Isle of Wight if he's still about? I think he is.
You were on the Inner Dowsing as well?
Yeah, well that was... I remember seeing that off Suter when the coal board had 2, and you'd look out one morning, it would be in a certain direction, next day they'd moved it somewhere else, you see. And when Trinity House bought it to convert it to a lighthouse, I put him for a transfer to it. So we went up to Hartlepool, and it was alongside the quay, and the only way up and down was in a basket on the end of the crane. Well, you can imagine lifting this basket up and it's swivel around a few times and bring you around, plonk you on the deck. And the crane driver, if he knew you didn't like that basket, he'd prolong the agony. You know, the biggest thing in those days was when they're getting the place ready was bringing fresh water and diesel, because you had an engine running all day long on lighting, There's carpenters up there, there was plumbers, there was electricians, painters eventually. Captain Bat practically lived up there. Deputy Chief Engineer Charlie Woolard, they were all up there. And it was absolute, well, I put it down, organised chaos. And then eventually they got it put right, you know. But the beauty of it was that Gordon and I, living in the accommodation, we could see things going in, like the run of the water supply, the run of the hot water supply, where all the electrics went. We followed everything, the fuel lines, everything that went in, we knew exactly where to go to. Where on a modern station today, half the lads don't know where to find these things, you know. And the funniest thing that happened to me was that I went aboard on the Friday morning, gone to, well, cheerio, and he's gone on his month's leave. And I'm left driving a crane. I said, well, that's how you switch it on, that's the up and the down, that's the slew, you know, that's how you top it in and out, and that was it. Luckily, I had done a bit when I was in the Navy, you know, so I had a rough idea what to do, because a lot of lads used to fight shy of driving that thing, especially when you bring in personnel up, you know, and you didn't have very much deck space on the heli deck to plonk this basket down, because you're all cluttered up with equipment, you know, stores, timber and stuff like that. Then when they brought the Billy Pew in, that frightened the daylights out of a lot of people.
What's a Billy Pew?
Well, that round ring with the ratlins going up to the top, and you're supposed to put all the equipment or stores in the middle, and you hang on the outside.
Yeah.
And that frightened a lot of people.
What sort of height was this tower you're picking
I'm
up?
talking about 140 feet.
In a crane basket, more or less?
Yeah, yeah.
Miss Gordon who?
Gordon Hartill. He's gone now, bless him. Yeah, he's a good chap, was Gordon.
And this tower's supposed to have got a list on it that was in the paper?
Yeah, well, what actually happened was when they were ready for towing down to Hartlepool, they decided to take it away from the quay and put it out in the middle of the harbour, where they could get the pontoons on easier and be ready to tow down to the present site. And unbeknown to the tug people and everybody in charge, they put her on a mud bank. And that Sunday night it blew up a gale of wind and she just slipped. She just toppled over a little bit. And when I got a message through to Yarmouth, to Captain Bat, he couldn't believe it. Because down here at Yarmouth it's only blown a 4 to a 5, he was out sailing. But I give them their due that they were there next morning. They travelled up straight away and they were there. And when the workmen came out in the morning, the chippies and that, they were coming round to a place where they used to get the boat from called the Coal Stays. And Bobby said to Ted, he said, I think that bloody tower's slipped, gone over in the night. Well, when they came out in the boat and got alongside, and we'd plumbed the crane over, because we used to have to get up in the morning, start the Crosley up, get the crane, get everything on the board, get the crane ready for them, you see. There was only 2 of us left on at night. And by the time we plumbed the Billy Pew down for them, she was well out from the tower. It wasn't close into the leg as it normally would be. So that gave us a good idea. And we weren't there long before they started to do the towing job, you know. Bring the pontoons out, button everything up. That took a couple of days, really, from getting the pontoons out, getting everything organised, to actually getting latched on and get the diver down, sort everything out. And then we started towing. Well, when we got off Flamborough, everything was all right till Flamborough. And they wanted a compressor brought up off the, was it compressor or generator, brought up on the pontoons. I said, I can't use the crane in this. I said, she's rolling too much. You do as you're told. So I said, right. Well, we had a jib down on a 40-gallon drum, resting on a 40-gallon drum. So I brought the jib up. What happened? She was swaying that much, she put the hook straight over the jib.
Mm.
And there was everybody on the Mermaid, you know. So I just went to the phone, I called down to the pontoon, I said, that'll have to stop where it is. I said, I can't use a crane in this. No way. And that was the end of that. I just put the crane back down on the jib back down on the drum and got the hook back over again. Because when you want some help, there's nobody there, is there?
Yeah.
When you don't want any help, you've got all the experts in the world around you. There's 22 people on there that night for that towing job. 22 people. The most we've ever slept actually working out there with DLF was 15.
So the accommodation is good on it, is it?
Oh yeah, it was quite good accommodation. I mean, you had in my corner, there's my cabin, Peter Lee's cabin. We shared a bathroom and toilet, and your cabin was like you had chest of drawers, or a cupboard for your stores, chest of drawers for your clothes, a table, armchair, wardrobe. Then you went through, what they'd done, they knocked 2 cabins into one. Then you went through, there was your bunk, toilet cabinet, hot and cold water, wash basin, telephone on the wall. And you had 3 radiators in there. Gordon's was separate, his was on his own cabin, shower, bath, toilet. That was built into his cabin. I think that might have been the master's cabin when it was in the Cold War days, you know. Then further round on the other side, they changed rooms around there for the other AK and for Blackwall staff. You had a storeroom for general service stores. You had a first aid room with everything in there that you could actually think of, you know, first aid wise. Laundry, washing machine. There was a battery room. There was a spare room that we never really, they left the old coalboard bunk in there, but we had the wave meter in there. Then you got round to the kitchen, the dining room, that you seat 22 people.
Okay.
Then you had the engineer's store. Next door to that was the TV room. When I went on there was 2 TVs and great big armchairs, you know. How the hell they got them in there? They must have put them in before they put the roof on. Then you went round a little bit further, then there was 2 more cabins for mechanics or the like. AK's cabin, electrical store, plumber's store. Then he went round to more accommodation. And then we had a drying room. So all in all, it was
It sounds quite plush.
quite plush, you know. Until one day I had a keeper come to me. He was only out there get the turns right or somebody was off sick. And he came in the TV room and he said, you look a bit worried, you know. I said, what's the matter with you? He said, well, who was that chap out there? I said, no, there's only us 3 here. He said, I just seen somebody looking out that window. go on. I knew, but didn't want to frighten him. He said, well, there was. I said, what do you mean? I said, how was he dressed? He said, well, he had grey flannels on, grey trousers, fawn sweater or pullover and a white shirt. I said, well, yeah, boss, what colour was his hair? He said, dark. Huh? I said, that's news to me, but I'd seen it. But you'd end up set the, you know.
So is this what, a resident ghost?
Yeah.
What, did you see him fairly regularly, or?
Yeah, just in one spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, as you come out the engine room door, there's two ways, well, three ways in the engine room, but as you came out towards the TV room, say that was the engine room, you come out there, the passageway there, there's one block of accommodation that way, and one this, so you had that gap. And he was always stuck looking out that window.
Was he a keeper, or?
No, he was, I think it's from the Cold War days.
Do you ever see any others anywhere else, or just that place?
I think Suter's got somebody. I'm pretty certain Suter has.
I've been on stations where I've felt a bit weird, but I've never seen anything. I've been on a certain level on a tower and I felt a bit scared.
Huh?
And then I've learnt later that somebody had died there. I've never seen anything.
Well, I reckon Colquitt is a bit weird, you know. I'm pretty certain about Suter, and that is, as you go along the passage, you're going into the tower, and just as you start to go up the stairs, just from the base upwards, you know, even my wife, she's experienced it, you know.
Not just a feeling.
Yeah.
That's what I've done on a tower.
It's but the ID, there's definitely something there.
But it wasn't a harmful one.
No, never bothered us. No, never bothered me, you know. I think the ID was really, it was a good, I mean, you had the accommodation there, it would have made a good place to put a lot of new blokes. You had more than enough accommodation, and you could have taught a lot of new lads a lot of things there, you know. There's one thing you had to be very, very careful of, was fresh water.
Yeah.
You only carried 1,200 gallons. So that was one thing that you could have really screwed them down on, you know. And you had a galley there with gas cooking, electric cooker, great big fridge. I mean, the fridge, well, it used to hold enough for 22 men. I know, I admitted they had maybe more frequent boats than what we did with stores, but still, it was always sufficient for us, you know.
This inner dowsing, it stood on legs, isn't it?
Yeah, just
So, and what's that? What are legs resting on?
a cruciform tank, which is just like a big cross, and I think they're about 5'10" deep by 5 foot wide.
And how is it? Does it move around a lot?
Oh yeah. If you get a good swell on, you can feel it doing it. Well, at first, but once you got itself bedded into the sand, because it's only sand up there. Once it got itself bedded into the sand, you know, she was all right. But you could tell by the level meters. We used to go and read these levels every morning, and put them down the book. And by looking at the readings, you know, you could tell she's going down by the north corner, then the south, and gradually in a corkscrew motion, getting herself into the bottom better. But you see, you're on that. You've got the current from the Humber comes past there. If you I did have a picture of it once, a coloured picture taken from the satellite. And you can see two distinct colours of water. From the inner dowsing into Maplethorpe, and from there outwards there's two distinct colours, so it must be from the Humber coming down that way. And if you ran the engine, the big Crosley, for any length of time, and she started pounding away every time you took the load on the crane, you could always check on the following morning that that corner had gone down that little bit more than normal, you see. But eventually she got settled down all right.
What about in a storm? Did it move then?
We had one big blow, really bad, and it shifted the crane jib from one side of the cradle to the other, and there you had to go out and climb up and go up some sets of steps, lift a trapdoor to get into the lantern to put the light on. Well, it was just about when we were going month on, month off, and I lashed this hatch down to the rails, took a piece of rope up and lashed it down, you know. But the next morning, I forget who it was now, he wasn't a very strong chap at all. I said, don't bother to put the light out this morning. I said, you leave the light on, leave everything going. I said, if it's still as windy as this, which he did do, because I didn't want him blown off their way. I mean, if anything had been said, I said, well, I only acted in the interest of safety. Because he could have taken you off there like nobody's business. And we had some big 3 pieces of like 4x4, something like that, laid across the deck. And, I don't know, 20 sheets of marine ply, tarpaulin over the top of that, 10-gallon drum of oil at each corner, lube oil, one in the middle, so well, that will hold it for the night, you know. Next morning, there was the drums of oil up in the scuppers, where was the plywood? Gone. That's how bad it could get, you know. And I spent one night, midnight till 4, except maybe 2 or 3 breaks, go down and get a cup of hot coffee down me. I had to pull the net back on the helipad and clear the snow off. Just continually shoveling snow off to get that deck clear for relief that morning. I went up on deck one night. I had a walk round 1:45. Very, very heavy dew, very still air, very clear. And because I was handing over to a bit of a one that gets himself glued to that thing, I thought I'll just have another walk round just to make sure everything's okay. And in that quarter hour, 20 minutes, there was a white frost up there. And it was freezing onto the rails, onto the flag mast, everywhere, every bit of metal, it was just freezing on, you know. Oh, it was weird. Weird sensation just to see it building up. Oh. It could be cold, but I don't know. I always said, don't do that, Mishka, stop that. If you had a good crew, it's half the battle. If you haven't got a good crew, forget it. I mean, I used to have to chase them up, left, right and centre. There's one guy, I'll tell you how bad he was, to get him out of bed, that the chippy crept into this keeper's bedroom and nailed his slippers to the floor and he never heard him. And dead on coffee time he wakes up, you know, feet in the slippers and straight over. Oh.
Now this place now, Cromer, used to be a departure for
Yes,
a
he did all
helicopter.
the reliefs from here. Humber, in the dowsing, Dudgeon, or the out the dowsing rather, in the dowsing, Humber, Dudgeon, Newark, Haysborough. That was a very, very busy time then.
So it was all mainly light vessel crew came through.
Yes, you only had the one lighthouse crew, and you could tell them apart from all the lightship people.
Mm.
Yeah, because they used to arrive here with that minibus, and they all get out, all in uniform, all smart, well turned out, and you get the lightship crew turn out, they're like a load of bloody tramps, you know. You could, we pulled up here one morning, and I said to my wife, I said, good God, I said, they're employing women on the lightships. There's one who had blonde hair down to here. And I used to hate to think what the poor old pilot used to think, see him getting in that helicopter with bloody great hobnail boots on. You know, these big safety boots and that.
Mm.
God. One arrived drunk one day. That was all right. Turn up for the books, that was, sorting him out.
How often were they relieved on the lightship?
It was every fortnight.
Mm.
Yeah, every fortnight.
And when did all that end?
Well, after I left here. Long after I left here. I think it happened gradually, you know. They take one lightship out and then eventually put another one out, you know. I was told, or asked a little story not long back, if you can devise some chemical or some substance that you can spread on the helidecks of these lightships, these automatic ones, where, I mean, on the ordinary lightship you had the crew there to keep the deck clean. Now they've got nobody. So if you can devise something that will keep that clean, especially like the offshore platforms, you'd be a millionaire overnight.
Oh, this is with all the seagulls.
Yeah. And I think you could think of all sorts of things, but I don't think it'd ever work.
What were Christmases like out on a tower?
Well, there again, it all depends who you're with.
Were you in a dowsing at Christmas?
Yes, yeah, but there again, we had quite a good crew, you know, so everything went, you did quite well. My first one was on the Nab, and the people of Bembridge brought out hampers. Yeah, the lifeboat brought these hampers out. Fresh veg, turkey, all such as that. A few bottles. That was quite nice. I've only had one bad one. Only one bad one, and believe it or not, that was on SAR.
Mm.
Yeah. And I'm cook. Day off, see, so I'm cook. And the old man says, I'm just going up the farm to get the milk. The other bloke said he's just going up somewhere else, he'll be back for dinner. And I never saw anybody till midnight. And there was a dinner cooked. You know. And that was the worst one of the lot, I think. It really was. Everywhere where else I've been, I think we've done pretty well. Long ships we used to bring it out, long ships. Oh, sending lifeboat. Admiral Benbow, the cafe down Chapel Street, they used to send a couple of big hampers out, you know, and it was all the very best of everything in there, you know. Lundy North, when I was on there. I was just glad that the PK was ashore when we had Christmas out there. Otherwise that would have been a damp squib. Use the right, you know.
So you got a few that like to spoil Christmas.
Oh yeah, you did, yeah. Oh yeah, there's. You see, I think what it was, there's a certain little clique had been on lightships, come over to this job, and them and other keepers had been treated like dirt by their PKs. And they got to be in their bonnet that, right, when I'm a PK, I'm going to do exactly to my men what was done to me. And little did they realise that things have altered from when they joined to, you know, just a few years ago. And even, I think even before this redundancy took place, we had a few then. Given half a chance.
But on the whole, they were nice, weren't they?
You had some good blokes. I mean, I think if the union nipped a lot of them in the bud.
Yeah. Although we got lots of nice blokes, it only takes one, doesn't it?
Oh, good, yeah. I mean, you think of this. When you're doing 2 months on and a month off, right, you and your PK meet up at the depot. No names, no nothing. You meet up at the depot. You go out to the lighthouse and there's maybe senior hand and a supernumerary coming ashore. So you go out there for 2 months with that principal keeper. The other guy's already done a month, so he's only going to do a month. But you and the principal keeper don't speak to each other. Now you're going to have to do that for 2 months. And it went on for ages. When you took the watch over, everything was written down on a slate.
That couldn't have been very nice then.
Now, you imagine that atmosphere.
Yeah.
I did it once. I only spoke when I was spoken to. And that man tried to have me. But when I was hauled up in the office, I said, I'm not forced to speak to him unless it's a direct order to me, or unless he asks me something. I said, in a normal job of work, I said, when I'm finished, I'll be gone home.
The sad thing with that is that you spend more, in those days, you spent more time with him than you do with your wife, really.
With your family, yeah. See, you'd only get one Christmas home in 4.
Yeah.
And that was another thing, being a junior hand or supernumerary, you can never guarantee, you think you're going to be home for Christmas, and all of a sudden somebody goes sick. So you're stuck out there for Christmas. I mean, when I was a supernumerary at Cowes, I could walk into the office there, and behind the district clerk he had a big blackboard. There's all the crews, all the names there, all the turns all written out right down practically for the year. If you took that for gospel, you're okay, but you couldn't do it. See, because sooner or later there was somebody at North Foreland would want his holidays. There'd be somebody at Dungeness. There'd be somebody at St. Catherine's. The guy in the River Lights would want his holidays. So you could never say exactly that you're going to be. You could go by that date on that road. Nine times out of 10, it's fairly certain, but there's always that little. Especially when you come up to Christmas, you always.
Yeah, I was sent out to somewhere at Christmas because a certain keeper that always goes ill every Christmas with
Yeah,
him.
that's right. Yeah. See, and when you were supernumerary, you couldn't carry a lot of stores with you. Mhm. Well, I was on a place once, and when you're supernumerary, you only take a certain amount of stores with you. You think, well, I'm not going to be, I'll be there a month, you know. You've got to learn the tricks of the trade. And we were a week overdue. And for that week, all I had was, the extras I'd taken with me was corned beef, cream crackers, and I had plenty of coffee, sugar, and powdered milk. And that's all I lived on. They wouldn't offer to sell me anything. And the old man wouldn't broach he wouldn't get me anything out of the emergency provisions, which I could have, later on, as you get older and wiser and learn the tricks of trade, I could have demanded them. I mean, we'd been 48 hours overdue. They were all right, they had big cupboards full of stuff. But when I did, on the inner housing, when the lad's there, I was ashore, and some of the lads run short of stuff, I said, well, there's the keys to my cupboard. I said, just leave me a list of what you've taken, and either replace or leave me the money. Which they did do. But how many people would do that? Right.
What sort of hobbies do you do?
Well, I'm just into model aircraft.
What about when you're on these towers and stuff in the inner
Or
desert?
reading, bit of bird watching. When I was on Lundy, I used to clear off, walk around the island with the binoculars, bird watching. I enjoy that. Long ships, it was just booking the ships as they went by.